Welcome to You, Me, Empathy. Thank you for listening. We would like to remind you that this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only, and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Known as just a silly boy with a feely heart. Please consider supporting the show. Check us out on Patreon or simply leave a review on iTunes. Here's your host and creator of the show, Known Wells.
Feely humans, hello! It is me, Known Wells. Welcome to the first part of a week of celebration. We are celebrating 1 year of You, Me, Empathy, and all this week we are releasing, I am releasing 3 episodes. You'll get today's episode, a bonus episode Wednesday, and another bonus episode Friday. In each of these episodes, I am chatting with friends from year 1 of You, Me, Empathy, all the way back from Katie Hilliard in episode 4, and Kory Stamper from episode 20-something, and Eric Zimmer from The One You Feed, and Jordana, and Rukmini, and all these wonderful feely humans. So you'll get a bunch of them. It's great. These will be little catch-up episodes, just kind of checking in with a handful of year 1 of You, Me, Empathy guests. See how they're doing, how their creative projects are coming along, and how their self-care is, and just how their feely hearts are feeling in 2019. Oh my gosh, it is 2019. Oh my gosh. You guys, you feely humans, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this journey with me, this first 1 year of You, Me, Empathy. You know, I'm really looking forward to growing You, Me, Empathy. I want to continue growing the community. I want to continue challenging myself as a creative person. I want to land bigger guests. I want to maybe do, I don't know, some interesting different types of episodes. Maybe more storytelling stuff. Maybe more sort of me on the mic alone, solo episodes. I don't know. I'm really still kind of thinking about it. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. I'm just grateful you're here. Before we get to today's episode, this first part of the 1 year anniversary celebration, please, if you can, make sure you're subscribed to You, Me, Empathy. You can subscribe via iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google, Stitcher, Spotify, all those places. Just make sure you're subscribed so you get a new episode in your ear holes every Monday. Isn't that lovely? Consistent feeliness in your ear holes. I need that. I know you do too. The other thing is, please leave a review in either Google or Apple Podcasts. I need the reviews. Let's get more reviews this year than we did last year. All right, we can do it. And every new review that comes in, I'll read on an intro to an episode. So make sure to do that, and be sure to follow the show on Instagram and Twitter at You, Me, Empathy. And we also have a lovely, beautiful Facebook community. That's at facebook.com/groups/You, Me, Empathy. Okay. Let's kick this 1 year celebration off right. This is episode 55 with my guests Rukmini Poddar, Kory Stamper, and Laura Donaldson. We talk about the Enneagram. We talk about understanding our suffering and the suffering of others. We talk about Kory starting a new podcast. We talk about adjusting to life as a freelancer. We talk about urinary tract infections and cozy jammies and all sorts of just heart-led stuff. Please enjoy this first part of the 1 year You, Me, Empathy celebration, episode 55. Hugs, hugs.
La 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 la. You, me. Empathy. Yeah. La la la.
Welcome to Yumi Empathy. I am here doing a series of episodes on to celebrate the 1 year anniversary of Yumi Empathy. I can't believe it's been a year, but my first guest, the very first guest of this anniversary episode series is Rukmini Poddar. Hello.
Hey, Noam. It's great to be on here. So excited to
Happy to
speak
have you.
again. Yeah.
So Rukmini was a guest back. We recorded way back in January, February of 2018, and her episode I think came out in April. And right now, as of we're recording, it's October, so it's been some time since we've seen each other.
Yeah, it has been some time.
And you've had, we'll get into this, but you've had a lot of growth.
Yeah, a lot's changed. And a lot's changed since we launched that episode in April. I think that was the beginning of me kind of exploring a new subject in my art. And it's been exciting to see what's happened since then.
Well, a lot has happened. I've been following your journey, and let's start with catching the listeners up on what Dear Rooksy is, and then we'll get into kind of where you're at with it. Where you're at with it now.
Sure. It's interesting because when we had first recorded and spoke, we talked about the theme of communal empathy.
Yeah.
And we talked about my project, Dear Rooksy, which is basically a project where they send me their emotions and I draw it for them. And the whole idea is that I wanted to create this space online where people can be anonymous, but really share their deepest feelings and just emotions that they don't know exactly how to articulate in stories that they want to share. And I'll be able to draw it and create a forum where people can see these stories and have a dialogue in a way with each other. So that was earlier this year. And what's interesting is that I've actually completely paused that whole project until now. But I after doing that project, I started a completely different 100-day project in April called 100 Days of Enneagram, which has been really fascinating. And for people who are not familiar with the Enneagram, it's basically a really nuanced and incredible personality typing system, a branch of psychology, and it's been really quite popular, but still not exactly mainstream. So not so many people know about it. It's not as popular as Myers-Briggs and other behavioral personality typing systems. Mm-hmm. But I kind of took it upon myself to do 100 days of illustrating all the types and then all of the subtypes and then all the nuanced kind of aspects to each personality. And that was such a fascinating process. For me, I did it because I just love the Enneagram. I discovered it 1.5 years ago, and it's taught me so much about myself and others and just how to see the world. And especially speaking of empathy, you just learn so much about empathy when you understand people's deep personal motivations. You really can't be upset at people. You can't you can only empathize because you understand your suffering and you understand the sufferings of others to such an incredible detail of just knowing where people are coming from, and in a scientific way, an absolutely brilliant way of mapping out the human psychology. So when I learned the system 1 year ago, I've just always wanted to share it somehow. And I've always seen it in a visual way in my head, but I've never seen anything properly illustrated. So when I did this project, I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. Part of me didn't believe I can get to 100 days. I was like, this is crazy. How do I even draw people's personalities in 100 different ways? Another fun fact is I was kind of ready to see my followers, the numbers go down, because I'm like, people don't know what this is. They're just going to get kind of annoyed at me kind of drawing this very specific personality system.
Yeah.
Well, I really didn't expect what happened, which is, after 100 days, I went from 4,500 followers to 18,000. I mean, the numbers skyrocketed. It was insane. And I just discovered this incredible community of Enneagram lovers, which I feel like they are just so excited for anything Enneagram related to be out there in the internet or anywhere, because there's just not many resources on the Enneagram. And if you're not familiar with it, I'm not so surprised because it's not so popular. Mm-hmm. There's these small little communities of people that are really into it, but there's like textbooks about it and other kinds of books, really good books, but there's no like videos and animations and illustrated books. Like there's a lot that can be done with it. So I felt like I found like a bit of a gold mine actually of knowledge that people are so passionate about, but it wasn't available in an accessible way. And so before I knew it, I found people like commenting and tagging their friends and saying, you have to like follow this girl, and like this is my type and what's your type, and like every day there were just like so many comments, and the engagement was like phenomenal. I mean, towards the end, because it grew gradually over the 3 months, but still by the end of it, I mean, some posts about certain types would get up to 100 comments, and these comments would be paragraphs of people just spilling their guts about how they've never felt so understood until they saw this picture, and what the description was so on point. It was quite amazing. And yes.
Let me interrupt. Sorry. There's a lot to unpack there. First of all, congratulations on all the success.
Thank you.
It's amazing, and it's really neat to see. Where did you first learn about the Enneagram? Because I've heard of it. Someone like a couple years ago gave me a book that I've never opened about the Enneagram. How did you hear about it?
I heard about it through friends. So
Okay.
in New York, while being here in New York, I have a couple of friends and a small group of community that kind of throw around this term Enneagram a lot, and the types. Oh, I'm a type 4, I'm a type 9. I never fully understood it until I connected with a couple of friends that run a small startup called Upbuild, and they have a coaching business. So the three of them do consultations for different organizations and leadership development, and it's all through the lens of the Enneagram.
Wow.
And so they do mostly workshops for corporations and businesses, but they do a few public ones in New York. And so they actually invited me to be a part of it a year ago. We're good friends now. Actually, I'm the one who, they're the ones who we collaborated with together. So when you see my Enneagram project, I didn't write any of the descriptions. All the research, all the content is from them. So it's very well informed. Yeah, like I'm still learning it myself, but they're the ones who are feeding me all the content, and I was drawing it. But funny story is that they actually, I showed them my book like a year ago, my 100 Obscure Emotions that I did a little bit back. And one of the guys from Upbuild, he was looking at it and he was like, wow, like you're drawing Enneagram types and you don't even know it. And I thought that was hilarious. Basically, the obscure emotions, it's catching emotions that I think I've always intuitively felt about people. But the interesting thing is that you can actually categorize them by Enneagram types really, really well and very accurately. And so that really blew my mind that I could study emotions in a very scientific way to understand where these emotions are coming from, to understand the fears that drive it, the motivations, in a really structured way. And so that's when I thought to myself, like, I really want to find out more about this. And I took a weekend workshop with them, and it really just opened my mind to so much, and to really, first of all, it comes back to that empathy again. You just understand why people do the things that they do. And when you kind of learn the right vocabulary and learn about these types, it was very freeing, because my hesitation and many others is that personality types and personality systems kind of put you in a box and limit you. And it's a little like impersonal and kind of frustrating.
Yeah, I've had that experience.
Yeah, I've never liked that either. That kind of black and white, you're introvert or you're extrovert or you're this and that, or ENFJ, or anyway, all those things. It never really resonated with me. But with the Enneagram, I really discovered that we're all in boxes already, but we just need to discover what kind of box it is so we can get out of it. And that's what it talks about, this idea that we have an ego mask, and we're all kind of in our own personality boxes. But if we learn to understand our own egos better, we can kind of transcend that. We can see like those pitfalls when they're coming. We can see when we're going to a bad place, and we can kind of break that pattern by already knowing the way our minds work, the way our egos work. And I thought that was so fascinating, especially when you learn about others and you see them and you can't see that they're a bad person, because no one really is. They could be in an unhealthy place, and therefore they make certain decisions that are coming from a place of fear. But then you understand that, and you can really help them see those fears and get out of it. So in that way, it's incredible for self-growth, and just such an incredible way for self-healing. I mean, there are just so many benefits to understanding yourself in that way, and kind of peeling off these layers of identity that we put on ourselves and getting towards the source. So I think really powerful. Definitely recommend anyone to check out the Enneagram.
I mean, it sounds amazing. Can you give me, you mentioned, and I like this idea of it allowing you to really develop more empathy and compassion for people and patience and understanding that we're all going to be going through shit. We all have our own sort of journeys and they're all valid. I like that. I think that's a really valid place to seek and a valid place to sort of go toward. Can you give me any examples that have that you've encountered people in your life where you've maybe had that interaction where you think like, oh, the Enneagram has helped me in this case with this particular person. Can you give me an example?
Yeah, definitely. I've had a friend, and even one of my parents, who is someone I would categorize as a type 1. So all the types, there's different aspects to them. Type 1 is called the moralist or the perfectionist, and they're kind of known as people who see the world a little bit as black and white, right and wrong, but they're also incredible people in the world. They make great judges, great teachers, lawyers. They have that, and they have that real strong sense of moral guide. And it's really helpful to know that each type in the Enneagram is absolutely perfect in themselves. No type is better than the other, but there's different degrees of health. So when you understand the essence of a type 1, which is just this incredible sense of integrity and knowing what's good in the world and wanting to see what's best, you respect that. But people, if someone is a type 1 and they're a little less healthy, they'll go down to being overly critical of others, and they get down to be super perfectionistic and slightly judgmental or very judgmental. They're the people who kind of like, they find one thing wrong and they'll really point it out, or if you didn't do something properly, they'll kind of like dig it in you. And sometimes I've had relationships with people where it's like, oh my God, why are you like this? Like, why are you so OCD? Or like, why can't you just like lighten up a little? Why do you have to be so strict on yourselves? So that, it's interesting because now when I see, oh, that's an aspect of a type 1, I realize that their inherent qualities is actually such a beautiful quality of wanting to see everything as being right and correct and having a strong sense of moral integrity. But you just understand that, okay, they're going a little bit in the unhealthy side, and that's why they're coming off like this. And for example, the motivation of a 1 is that things should be correct. Like they just see the world as kind of right and wrong. And when you understand that they're actually really suffering, because in a sense that when they're pointing out that you've done something wrong, they've actually feel that towards themselves. If that makes sense. Like an example is that, say my mother, like will see the kitchen not clean, and will kind of, point fingers at me for not doing it. Easy to kind of get in a little argument. But when I understand that actually she has such a high standard for herself, that she's like twice as hard on herself than she is on me, I can understand and be like, okay, I see where this person's coming from. They're not just trying to put me in a corner, but they just want to see certain standards being upheld. If that makes sense. So that's just a kind of a light example of where someone's coming from.
It totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like it's helping you really integrate, in a very healthy sort of heart first way into your relationships, and allowing you to, in your community, of course, allowing you to, not maybe take things so seriously, not maybe let things affect you. Do you ever, or have you, or do you find yourself like ever wanting to correct? Or no?
Correct others, or what
correct others? Yeah, correct others. Like, obviously maybe not, but obviously you're coming from a place where like, hey, maybe you have some of this knowledge now, and you maybe understand their type, and you know that like, okay, they're expressing this thing because they're a type 1 or whatever. Like, do you ever talk to them about it?
It's a good question. I think initially I was very excited about like just telling people, oh, you're doing it because you're like this and you have this motivation. Then I realized it doesn't really work that way. No one likes being told that. I know even for me, in the beginning when I didn't understand the Enneagram and people would say, oh, you're such a type 4, or that's why you're like this, it would really bother me. And it doesn't really go in, because you kind of feel like someone else is judging you. You don't feel like it's coming from a place of, anyway, I don't think it works, so I don't do that. But what it does allow me is just be a better listener, a better understander. It's not about fixing someone. Like, I understand their qualities and where they're coming from, but when I point it out in a certain way, it won't help things. But what will really help is to just to understand, just to receive better. And in doing that, if they feel a little bit more open to learning or just to hear what I have to say, then it's helpful. But in general, I would like to say learning about the Enneagram is a way for us to grow first. So it's not like, okay, now I know this, I'm going to impart this knowledge on others to help them,
Right.
It doesn't work that way. It's really, it could work a little bit that way, but it's really for us to integrate and to be able to handle things better. Not like, okay, let me go tell my mom she's a type 1 and like this will straighten out everything. But rather let me understand her better and where she's coming from, and let me be able to receive whatever life throws at me, knowing that, people are where they're at and I'm where I'm at. And it's just good for us to be more forgiving to each other and to myself as well. So,
Yeah, no, I mean, that sounds amazing. In what ways, it's clearly like playing a huge role in your life. In what ways do you feel it's impacted your own mental health?
It's, I'd say it's allowed me to see myself from a better perspective, rather than being so in my emotions and really feeling whatever I'm feeling and kind of drowning in it. I can take a step back easier and be like, oh no, Rukmini, this is the part where you're kind of spiraling down because you're going through that self-talk, and this is why you're doing it, because you're coming from a place of shame, and this is why you're over-exaggerating this in your head and playing these stories. It's very interesting actually to be able to take this perspective, because sometimes I still do it regardless of the perspective, because if I'm just not feeling good, I'm human, and sometimes you want to indulge in it. But what it does is that it gives you a sense of responsibility. Somehow because I know a little bit more about myself, I'm somehow more accountable and responsible to myself when I go in this kind of places of like negative self-talk, where I feel really down, because I know how to get out of it. It doesn't always mean I will get out of it, but it's like a little bit more awareness. And it's like, Rukmini, like, you can get yourself out of this. Like, this is a bunch of bullshit. Like, why are you telling yourself this? And there's a little bit more of that. And I think that's really helpful for us to be responsible to ourselves like that.
It is. It sounds exhausting, though, to me.
To kind of catch yourself like that each time?
Just to kind of like, I know it's a good thing. I know it's generally a good thing to have more awareness of self and understand why we are certain ways, and understand like, oh, this is an aspect of my sort of foundation, and this is why that is very helpful. And I agree with you. It just, for me, like the way, like, it's coming from a place of admiration toward you and being able to hold all this stuff and being able to like live your life in this way as best as you can. It just, for me, it sounds like almost like this ongoing, like you're like in therapy, like all the time or something, It sounds
That's a really
exhausting.
good point.
Is it exhausting?
Is it exhausting? It can be if you make it.
Yeah.
I think with the way you're seeing it, it sounds like if I were to make it a way of like I have to fix the situation each time, that would be exhausting.
Sure.
And sometimes I want to do it and I want to fix the situation. But if I just keep it as a place to allow me to better be myself, to enter into a place of being, then it can actually be helpful, because things don't have to be exhausting. They're only exhausting if we want to make it like, now I have to work at this. I don't have to work at anything. Maybe quite often the awareness allows me to better forgive myself, allows me to just better enter into a place of being, of like, shit, like this is how I feel right now. But you know what? As a type 4, I'm highly emotional, and that might not be an excuse to act this way, but at least I just know where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
I'm going to forgive myself a little bit. I think it's a back and forth. Some days it's a great tool for self-forgiveness and just self-acceptance. But sometimes we need a little push to be like, okay, time for me to get out of this loop,
Yeah.
So it's back and forth. It doesn't have to be a constant, exhausting push unless you want it to. And it doesn't have to be a constant, like, excuse to be a certain way. I think it's a balance between both.
Gotcha. So last time we spoke, you had mentioned sort of some of your goals for Diruxi. And, you had mentioned, like, wouldn't it be grand if, it's like in the New Yorker someday? I think you had mentioned that.
Yeah, I love that you still remember that.
So you're doing this sort of similar but different kind of thing now. Like, what are your aspirations now?
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that, because a big goal of mine is to relaunch Diruxi, actually.
Okay.
But I want to do it in a bigger way, in a different way. And I think with the audience that I have now, I will likely have a lot more submissions. And so I want to see a way to make it more sustainable for myself. But I'm actually excited that we're talking about this because it's getting me back into gear for launching it. I had this idea that there were several key like Instagram influencers and just artists and illustrators I really admire. And so my idea has been to email them all and tell them first to participate in Dear Rooksy. And I just want to have artists and people I know to first participate and kind of openly share whatever they're going through and then open it up to the public. And I'm quite excited for what will come. I think it'll be a little bit different, but I want to side by side do Dear Rooksy as well as some of the Enneagram work. So that's a little bit of my vision for next year. I'm really actually excited because for the first time I see what I'm doing in my art really becoming something much bigger. Even, so that's been wonderful. A lot more merchandise, a lot more selling of things. I haven't been very on top of that. I see a lot of, want for that. And actually I've kind of fallen into a love of teaching. I did a few little gigs earlier of just teaching like mindful art and things like that, like little workshops to groups of people. And I really loved it. It was something so exciting about just giving people permission to play and be themselves with art. And that kind of human connection for me was really meaningful. And so I would love to find more ways to do more of that next year.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm encouraged and inspired by, your sort of continued, exploration of self and art and empathy. And it's awesome.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I'm equally really so grateful and excited to see you continue this project and you really continue to talk to people about the importance of mental health and getting to the essence of things.
Thank you. Well, where can people connect with you, Rukmini?
Best is on Instagram. It's Rockin' Rooksy, and then my website, dearrooksy.com, which hopefully soon will be open for submission. So I want to encourage everyone to send me their emotions.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being a part of this 1-year anniversary episode, friend.
Wow, my pleasure. Thanks so much for calling and talking.
Of course. Let's keep in touch.
Mm-hmm.
I will continue to follow along on your journey, and maybe we'll do this again sometime.
Definitely. I'm happy to be one of your kind of regulars or your anniversary members, and anyway, awesome. We can collaborate in the future and do stuff. I'm always happy to see your growth and see how things are going.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, that's it, I guess. I have Kory Stamper here. This is the second iteration or the second episode, or the second segment. Let's call them segments. The second segment of this 1-year You Me Empathy anniversary episode. Hello, Kory Stamper.
Hey, Noan, how are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm actually doing great.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
So for the listeners, Kory was a guest on a previous episode. I'm forgetting the number, but that's okay. She came on to talk about specifically the language of mental health, which is such an important thing that I think about often. Just doing this show, talking about mental health all the time, I'm very conscious of how I talk about it and the language I use. It's very important. And so Kory is an expert in language because she used to work for Merriam-Webster, and she's written a lovely word nerdy book called Word by Word, and she's just a gem of a human being.
Aw, thanks.
So Kory, give me and the listeners an update on where you're at. I know the last time we spoke, you hadn't started a podcast. Let's start there.
I had not started a podcast. The last time we spoke, I left my job at Merriam-Webster, which was a career job. I had been there for 20 years. And I'm a very risk-averse person. So this was a huge risk, as you may imagine.
Yeah.
But I was ready to move on. It was time for me to focus more on my own writing. So I left, and it pretty much quickly after I left, my literal neighbor and one of my lexicographer friends, Steve Kleinedler. He and I, went out for dinner and he was like, we should do a podcast. And I was like, nah. He's like, no, we should. And I was like, okay. So my husband is among other things, he's a recording engineer. So Steve came over to my house. We set up a little recording booth in the back bedroom of my house, and we started a podcast about language and dictionaries that is called Fiat Lex.
Fiat Lex. And what does that mean?
Well, it's a play on Fiat Lux, which is Latin for let there be light. And we used lex, short for lexicon. So it's let there be words. It also blends Latin and Greek, which really upsets some people, but delights us very much. So
You're a rabble rouser, you are, Kory.
I am, to my core.
I love it. I love that about you, all the way to your purple hair.
Yeah, which is still purple. That is the one constant in the last years. My hair is still very much purple.
Your co-host, Steve Klein, what's the last name?
Kleinedler.
Kleinedler. That name, I mean, he was born into lexicography.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yeah, with a name like that, you can't really do much besides, write a really esoteric linguistics textbook or be a lexicographer.
I concur.
Yeah. So yeah.
So that's a big decision. After 20 years leaving this job you loved, and, you talking about being risk averse, obviously, or maybe not obvious, but did you feel like some safety in the fact that like maybe your book was selling well? What was that about? Or, your husband works, so maybe it felt a little, less risky. What was going on in your mind there?
So my husband actually doesn't have a full-time job. He, like most musicians, kind of scrabbles, and it was very risky, but really what it came down to was just feeling like the arc of where I was going was not keeping me at the dictionary, that I had lots of stuff to write about, lots of things to say, and I kept getting offers to, hey, would you write an article for us about this? Or would you write a blog post for us about that? And at a certain point, it just became clear that if I was going to do that, then let's try that. So and my book has been doing pretty well. And for all of you who bought it, thank you very much. And if you can't afford to buy it, you can get it from your library, because that's still a sale for me. The library has to buy it. So yeah, I think it was a very weird it was very uncharacteristic of me. I'm very risk averse, but it just felt like it was time to do this. And, and if it didn't work, I'll go get another job. And if it worked, then I would be happier and I'd be doing the things that I really felt like I should be doing.
Yeah. I love that. And I commend you for making that move. I think after 20 years, that's difficult. That's hard. I think that's hard for any of us to leave a sort of comfy situation and sort of jump into the unknown a bit. It's, but I think, I'm finding as I get older, I think that the more of that we do, the more of, as my friend, I recite this all the time, but my friend Andrew Smith, who's a writer, always says it's about bumping into things, being a writer. And I sort of equate that also, or translate that, or use that term for just living. And I think that that's what you have done. And I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, it has been very interesting because, as I made this decision and, executed it and moved out into the freelance world, and I was very lucky. I immediately had freelance writing and freelance editing. It was, so I was really lucky in terms of I didn't want for work. And I also, I still go around the country and I, give ridiculous lectures about the history of the English language with ridiculous cat slides and things like that. So, while that was happening, I personally had this has been a year of transition. My eldest daughter graduated from college. My youngest daughter went to college. And I made this huge career transition. And the thing that has been really fascinating is that I am, you would think, given my mental health history, this would be a huge trigger for depression and, a major depressive episode. And, we were all kind of waiting for it. But I think because I'm so much happier doing the writing and the freelance editing and sort of building my own schedule and all these things, and these transitions for my kids have gone really well. I've been really lucky in that I have actually not had the major depressive break that I was expecting to have. And that's actually given me sort of this weird confidence when people are like, oh my gosh, or, I could never do that. Or what are you going to do about, any number of practical things. It's been very freeing to say, yeah, it's going to take care of itself because it has to at this point. It's just like, I have no control over, when the freelance check will come in or, what my next freelance job will be. It just happens as it happens. And for someone like me, who's a complete control freak, it has been weirdly freeing to not really have any places to grab onto and to make the conscious decision. Like, I want to do this, and that's what this life change means, is that things are going to be up in the air, and that's fine. And, doesn't mean that I'll be doing this forever, but it does mean that while I'm doing it, there are certain things that I have to be willing to let go of and other things that I have to lean into the joy of doing instead.
Wow. I mean, it sounds amazing, and it's good on you for managing that. And I totally relate to the feeling of being a freelance, in the freelance writing world, and just having to get to a place of acceptance that, it's kind of ups and downs, ebbs and flows. And I think that's if you can get in there and if you can sort of be content with that experience, those ups and downs, I think that's a good mirror for life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for my own part, it's also been really exciting to have an opportunity to focus on just the things the creative stuff that I've wanted to do for a long time. So in my marriage, my husband, as I said, is a musician, which means that up until this year, I was the one with the full-time job and the benefits and all of that. And his creative work was his employment. So sometimes that meant he would be on tour, and sometimes that meant he would be writing string and horn arrangements for indie bands. And sometimes that meant he'd take commissions. And sometimes that would mean he'd teach. But really, we just built our marriage around having creative space.
Yeah.
And now it's not flipped, but now I have the opportunity to do that. And after watching him do it for so long, it's really exciting to be able to say, okay, at least for the next month, we have the money and I can keep doing it. And it's been really fruitful. I'm working on a second nonfiction book, which is really exciting. And I'm doing lots of articles for different places. I actually just turned in an article for the Boston Globe, and I'm doing our podcast, and it's a lot of fun. So I'm really enjoying this weird topsy-turvy state of life.
I love that. I want to get into maybe some of the specifics about what you're working on now, but I'm curious about how this has impacted your relationship with your husband. How has he taken it?
It was really interesting because my book came out in 2017, and I had been writing it for like a year and a half, and so he watched me juggle a full-time job and writing a book, and then a full-time job and going on book tour, and then a full-time job and pitching a second book. And, I kind of hit a point in the beginning of the year where it was clear I just had to leave, and sort of pulled him aside, and we had a long talk, and I said, I need you to know that I think it's time for me to leave and write full time. And he said, I've been wanting you to do that for years. I'm so excited to hear you say that. So, he was very, very receptive. I think the thing that has been funniest is, so we've been married a long time. We've been married for 23 years. And so we're having to do things like learn how to work in the same house. Because he works at home and I work at home. And I've discovered that creative work is very different from the day-to-day dictionary work. And sometimes I need to walk around the room and talk to myself while I'm talking out an idea. And he's a musician and a composer. And so sound doesn't work so well for him. So those are just such minor bumps in the road.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful and really lucky that he's really supportive, and he's like, okay, then, I'll step up hunting for work on my end so that we can enable you to do this. So I've been really, really lucky, and it's been, it's a really wonderful thing to have a spouse who is willing to support that. And he's also by nature just kind of an optimist and a very, stable guy.
That's helpful to have those people in your life.
Yeah, totally. So if he were like me, if he were a carbon copy of me, it would have been a disaster. But fortunately, he's nothing at all like me. So
yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
Can you tell me anything about the second nonfiction book you're writing?
I sure can. So the second nonfiction book is a little bit of a departure. I'm focusing on color. In particular, I'm focusing on this period in American history, first half of the 20th century, where we had this big scientific boom. All sorts of new technologies, and a lot of that tied to World War I and World War II. And in the midst of that, we sort of got into this mindset that if you can measure it, then you can standardize it. And so there was a push in the early 20th century to standardize color, and in particular to standardize color names. And so I'm looking at really 3 or 4 different people who sort of led that charge, and how eventually that mindset that we're just going to, you can't just name a color whatever you want. It has to have a set name. That mindset eventually influenced the way that dictionaries defined color terms, in particular in the 60s. So I'm on the front end of that, but it's a lot of fun. It has a lot, I get to research all sorts of stuff. So I'm reading about science in America in the 20th century. I'm reading about the physics of optics. I'm reading about how we see color, how color is perceived. I'm reading about color theory. I'm reading about colorimetry, which is the scientific measure of color. I went to a color conference in June, which was amazing.
What is this?
It was the most amazing
A color
thing.
conference?
Yes. So this conference was a conference celebrating a really famous color scientist named Alfred Munsell. And it was the 100th anniversary, I guess, of a really important work that he had published. And so this conference brought together all of these people who were interested in color from all these different fields. So you had people who worked for the Munsell Color Corporation. You had people who were color scientists, and so they were, physics nerds and chemistry nerds. You had people who worked in industry to control color as it is applied to consumer goods, industrial goods. You had people who were color consultants for businesses, color forecasters with Pantone, color namers and color mixers from paint companies.
My goodness.
And then me.
And then you,
the
purple-haired word nerd.
Yeah. And it was one of the most fun conferences I've ever been to, because there was no sort of sneering at anyone's particular expertise. There was an understanding, like the scientists knew that the color forecasters did something that the scientists couldn't possibly do, and vice versa. And like the people who were teaching color design in art schools didn't have the background of color scientists or the background of the color consultants, but their work was incredibly important. So it was just this really collegial and relatively small group of people. And the thing that was great was that it was the same kind of like in-depth, open, earnest nerdiness that you get when you go to a dictionary conference. It's like everyone's really excited about the topic.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was great. I got all sorts of fun swag from that, including crayons, which was wonderful. So.
Okay. Yeah. No, did you have conversations there that will be included in the book, or just, as research?
No, there will be some conversations included in the book, and there are people that I met there that I'll be following up with questions or with certain topics. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. Well, so I'm really excited about color now. I'm a big color nerd.
Has that sort of seeped into your own personal life? Like, have you started, surrounding yourself in all types of color?
I have, and it's very funny, because before I had a conversation with a color consultant. We were just talking, getting to know each other, and I made some comment about, I'm terrible with color. And she was like, nobody's terrible with color. She's like, that's just a myth. Like, you like the colors you like, and all you need to do, like, some colors don't go together, but it's less about colors going together and people being good with colors. And, it's just about enjoying the colors that you enjoy. She's like, especially, you're not paid to put color palettes together. Just enjoy the colors you enjoy. And I was like, I'm going to do it, God damn it. And so, so since June in particular, my office space has become much more colorful. It's pretty office spacey, but now I've got a bunch of prints on the walls that are multicolored prints. And of course, all of the books I'm reading for research, all of them have rainbow covers. All of them do. Like, I think it's de rigueur if you publish a color book. It has to have all of the colors on it.
Yeah. So, you got to be inclusive.
Oh yeah. So I'm no longer afraid of color, which is a good thing.
Well, that sounds amazing. And what's the pub date on that?
It's probably going to be 2020. I don't have it yet, but once I do, I will shout it from the rooftops, as is my wont.
Excellent. And what, what I want you to write, and maybe maybe you've already done this, but I want to see an extensive sort of mental health language article somewhere.
Oh, yeah. That would be great.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, it really would be. One of the things that's been interesting since our last talk for Yumi Empathy is I've been noticing myself how often I let just certain phrases slip into my language, and I'm so much more aware of it now. Like I have stopped saying that's crazy, which,
Sure.
like, which is actually a really hard one to get out of your language because it's just such a fixed phrase and everyone knows what you mean by it. But I'm now much more aware of it, even since our conversation. And I felt like I was pretty aware of it before, but now I'm even more aware. So,
well, this is the beauty of this podcast. It's very influential.
Yes, that's right. That's right. That's right. You are a social media influencer.
Oh, no, don't say that. Do not say that. I claim no influencing. So tell me about so one of the things last time we talked about, one of the takeaways in that last episode was this idea that we as humans, when we're having conversations, to use person first language.
Mm-hmm.
How is that going for you? And in what ways is the work you're putting out into the world maybe supporting that, contributing to that, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's just a different thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm trying to put that into practice in some of the articles that I write, and not necessarily the circumlocutions or the collocations. I mean, sometimes yes, but even just the way that topics are broached. So I wrote an article for the Boston Globe about the singular they, and in that case, it was actually really important for me to have as many trans, non-binary, and gender expansive voices in the piece as I could. And even though the piece was really kind of about grammar, I really wanted to have people who were affected by the singular they be as front and center as I could in an article about grammar. So things like that. I'm not a journalist by training, and I think most journalists would read my work and say that's absolutely true. But I do think that there is something about if I'm given the task of writing about something, particularly something that affects, people on a really personal level, or something that deals with marginalized groups, or I try my best to think of the people who are reading this and the people who are being represented. And trying to bring those voices in. Now, sometimes it's hard. I mean, sometimes I can't do that in an article because it's just not the topic.
Yeah.
But in other ways, I really try to. One of the things that I've been doing is I've been writing little blog posts for a newsletter called "What Would Virginia Woolf Do?" And
I love that.
It's a newsletter for women over 40, basically. And I take a word and I write about it's a combination of a word history article and then a personal essay. And I love doing that because it's not so much a personal essay about my experiences, but I feel like, anytime that you can weave language and a person's lived experience together is such a beautiful thing because language lives within people. Language is people. People are language, and language is messy because people are messy. And there's something that's kind of great about that.
It was very connecting.
Yeah, and I think, particularly for people who, are struggling with where they're at with their mental health, or people who are struggling with, a family member and where they're at with mental health. There is something about seeing some of these words placed within a context that relates them to people. So I wrote an article about the word hysterical and whether hysterical was a gendered insult or not. And what was really fascinating is I got a lot of feedback about that article, and almost to a person, most of the men who contacted me were like, "You're being hysterical." And most of the women
that's perfect.
Right. Thanks, dudes. And most of the women who contacted me were like, even though this was basically all data, this little thing that you put here at the end about how there are just other words to use to communicate these things, and you just don't have to use hysterical because it is really gendered, was just so validating to my experience. And that's the kind of thing that I love. Like, I love that you can write about a word and it can deeply affect a person, even though I've never met them, and just validate their experience. And even, in some cases, help them reframe an experience, or help them give someone else an opportunity to reframe. So, yeah, so I'm trying to do people first writing and reporting where I can. In terms of using people first language, I've tried to train myself to do it. I'm sure I still slip up because it's just what we do. We slip up. But yes, and it's been interesting too in terms of now being a freelance writer and working with all sorts of different editors and seeing the sorts of editorial changes that get made and having to advocate sometimes and be like, no, you can't. I know it takes up less space, but you can't say, a mentally ill person, or, I know it takes up a space, but you really can't say, commit suicide. That's not appropriate. That's not right. And,
right.
And fortunately I have, the background where I can make a persuasive argument about language use because that was my job forever. So,
yeah.
So, yeah. So,
No,
yeah. So it's a process.
That.
Yeah, it's a process. And I'm excited about just a person first view, even in nonfiction work. I mean, that's something that I'm really excited about with this color book. It is a story about color, but even more than that, it's a story about how people interact with color, and and that's just so great and weird and fun and spooky. Like, it's great how it's such an integral part of a person's experience, and kind of like language. So yeah, that's a long-winded way of answering your question.
Well, it's beautiful, and I love that. I've been thinking a lot lately about that, about the words we use, and in particular, one of the place I go sometimes is I want to just, I'm human. I say this a lot. I say I'm human, you're human, we're all human. And that, I think, is valid, and I think that's an important distinction or an important fact, because it grounds us in this thing that this is a thing that we all are.
Right.
But I also find that maybe that can be problematic. Just listening to what you're saying, maybe that can be a little bit exclusive of people who, find, it's not an exclusive idea that sort of takes away from the identity that people have, specific identities, and that's very important, of course. Mm-hmm. But I think, I don't know, for me, it helps me to start at this human level and say like, hey, we're all here. I'm like noodling on this sort of writing piece right now about men and eating disorders. And that's kind of where I'm starting, is like, look, this is a human thing, not a man thing, not a woman thing. It's a human thing. And I don't know, I personally need to start there. And then I think identity, can specify from there. I think that's important, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Well, I think, one of the, it just makes me think about the name of the podcast, You, Me, Empathy. And, empathy at its heart is really recognizing the humanity of all of the people around you and being able to connect in some way with their humanity. And which, I honestly find that challenging sometimes,
Sure.
So there's somebody I really dislike. I really don't want to have empathy for them. And I think, just appealing to that sort of starting point that we're all human is really, that's really at the heart of what empathy is. We all have, if we don't have shared experiences, we all do have these sort of core emotional responses to certain things that unite us. And,
totally.
You can say that's evolutionary, or you can say that that's a result of culture or whatever, but they're there. And yeah, I think I like the idea of finding unifying things in our current cultural moment. And I say that as somebody who's by nature a pessimist. But I think, I think there is something to be said for trying to, even if the only thing you can appeal to is shared humanity, in some situations that's got to be enough. And so I think it's a beautiful thing to be able to, even to start there and say, we're all human. We all have experiences with language, or we all have experiences with color, or we all have experiences with food. And, doesn't mean that we all have the same experience, but it is a starting point.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for that validation.
Yeah, you bet. Keep writing.
Well, let's wrap it up here. Where can people read maybe some of your latest work, your website, connect with you, all that?
Yeah, you can read some of my latest work in the Boston Globe. If you just Google Boston Globe and my name, you'll get a couple things. If you are a subscriber to the Wolfer newsletter, then you'll see some of my articles there. I am probably going to be doing some more personal writing, either on my blog or on another platform to be announced as soon as I set it up. And you can always find my, smart-assed face on Twitter at Kory Stamper.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Kory, for being a part of this 1-year special episode of You, Me, Empathy.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for asking me.
Hello.
Hey. Hello?
Hey.
Hi.
Hey. How's it going?
So it's been an interesting day.
Oh, yeah?
I got some CT scan results back today.
Uh-oh.
And yeah, I have some sort of mass on my lung.
What the hell? Laura?
Yeah. It's been a pretty shitty day. Yeah. Well, so I'm laughing because I've already cried today.
That's
But
a
I was thinking to
reasonable
myself,
reaction.
like, yeah, we were gonna do like a check-in about like how I'm doing, and I just, like, what an appropriate day to do a check-in because, yeah, it's shitty.
Well, let me say this. I'm sorry
Thanks.
that's happened. It's probably going to be okay.
I think so.
It's going to be
It'll fine.
okay.
It's gonna be fine.
Let's say that.
Whatever. Yeah,
And
it'll be fine.
do you want to do it another day?
No, let's go for it.
All right,
I
all
mean,
right.
you know, we've already declared and established that we are poop buddies. So I feel that if I were to talk about my internal organs, it would be very appropriate.
Okay. Well, speaking of poop buddies, I have, Scooby, as you know, is my dog, and
Yeah.
he's been having diarrhea, and he just farted. So he's got a diarrhea fart. It's
I love
permeating my nose right now. And we're also dog sitting 2 other dogs, a puppy and a chihuahua, and the puppy is just chewing on everything. So that's fun.
You're having a great day. It's
Yeah.
a great day in the world. Yeah.
It is. No, I love having dogs around me. They're the best.
Oh, your stretch video earlier was hilarious, by the way. I was loving that.
Yeah, that's my life.
Anyway, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Yeah.
Good.
Just trying to take it one day at a time.
Yeah, tell me about it. Oh my God. I'm literally in bed right now. Like, I left work early because of the news and just, I mean, there's more, which I can tell you about later, but I'm just like, I'm in bed. I literally can't, you know, I literally can't. So I'm in bed.
Well, I'm keeping all of this in.
Oh, do it. I love it.
And so, listeners, this is Laura Donaldson. She was a guest on way back in episode 9 of You Me Empathy, if you can believe it.
Oh my gosh.
And she's here. Hello.
Hello.
How are you? Well, the listeners know that you've been having a weird sort of, weird kind of cry-worthy day.
Yeah, I really have. I think I've come to realize at the age of 40 that having a body is simultaneously wonderful and absolutely terrible. My health has never been like catastrophically bad,
Yeah.
but I've always had like, there's always something going on. And recently I just like the last month or so, I haven't felt well. I thought maybe I had some sort of like urinary tract infection because I was having pain in my abdomen and was like peeing a lot. And so I went to MedExpress and my initial symptoms and the initial urine test, they were like, yeah, we think you have a urinary tract infection. I was like, oh, that makes sense. Okay. And they put me on antibiotics. And then they said, well, we're going to send your urine to the lab for a culture just to make sure it's in fact an infection. And we'll let you know what the results are. And they called a couple days later and they're like, you do not have an infection. And I'm thinking, then why do I feel so terrible? Like, why do I feel like my urinary tract system is just a mess? And I thought, oh no, what if it's kidney stones? Because I have a history of kidney stones. I've had 5 of them and I've had surgery twice. So I thought, but I'm not getting like the typical kidney stone pain. But I just have these like weird sensations like in my abdomen, like in my bladder. So I went to see a urologist about a week ago and he's like, I would like for you to get a CT scan immediately of your abdomen. So later that day, I got a CT scan and I was supposed to get the results on Monday of this week and I did not get them. And so I started calling every day and was having a really hard time getting through to people, getting answers. Nobody, like I was leaving messages for people. Nothing was being solidified. I didn't know what was going on. I finally today got a call from my doctor who said, well, you have an 8 millimeter stone in one kidney and a 2 millimeter stone in another kidney. But those stones wouldn't be responsible for you having the symptoms that you have. And I was like, okay, that's not helpful. And he's like, but what I'm seeing, what's showing up on your CT scan and what the radiologist has discovered is that you have like I guess a pretty significant cyst on your right ovary, and you also have like a nodule in the bottom lobe of your right lung. And I was like, I'm sorry? A nodule in my lung? Like, what does that mean? And he's like, well, you really need to get a CT scan of your chest, and you're going to have to follow up with a pulmonologist. And I just started to cry on the phone because I thought, okay, well, that's just awful to hear, but also nothing you're telling me is giving me any peace about why my urinary tract feels completely wonky. So I said to him, is there any possibility that this ovary, the cyst on my ovary could be like pressing up against my bladder or one of my ureters, like my ureter on that side? And he's like, well, I don't know, because the cyst is pretty high on your ovary. So I don't think that it would be, affecting those, like your bladder or your ureter, but, you need to follow up with your OBGYN as well. And I'm thinking, what the hell is like happening to my body? So I basically just sat in my office and cried, and then talked to my husband and my parents, and then I decided to come home. So I'm doing this phone call from bed because when one
Bed
gets
chats.
terrible news, yes, bed chats.
Bed chats with poop buddies.
Yeah, bed chats with poop buddies. So
well,
that's
I'm very sorry you're going through that.
Thanks, man.
I hear and I relate to this. I think we can all relate to the frustration of not having answers.
Yes, I do not like gray area.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
And that's like 99% of our experiences when we go, well, sure, of life, but yes, we can expand it there. But like when it comes to like our health or mental health, physical health, going to doctors, it's like, I'm going to try this thing. It may not work. I don't know what that is. You're going to have to see this person. It's just it's a constant thing and requires so much patience and
energy.
Yeah,
and
tons of energy.
Yeah.
Which sometimes we don't have.
I don't. I mean, my job is pretty stressful right now, and the weather change affects me. Like, it's very cold and damp here in Pittsburgh, and I have to take public transit, a pretty complicated and long commute a couple days a week. That really just affects me and my body, and then it affects my mental health. So it's been kind of rough lately. I'm not particularly enjoying this season of my life, if I can say that.
I'm sorry to hear that. And
thanks.
I guess what I want to say is you'll get through it.
I will.
Because you've gotten through it before and you're resilient.
Yes.
So what are you going to start making next steps in terms of like pulmonologists?
Yeah. So tomorrow I kind of told myself I was going to come home from work today early and just get a shower and crawl into bed. And that's what I did. And I'm going to just stay here for the rest of the night. It's, a little after 6:30 p.m. here in Pittsburgh. And I'm going to sleep, and tomorrow's a new day, and we'll see. I did bring work stuff home, so if I want to work from home tomorrow, I could potentially do that, cancel some student appointments that I have, and then I work in higher ed, and then make some phone calls to doctors tomorrow and just try to get things set up, because Thanksgiving is right around the corner, and that's going to put a delay on things. So I think if I can try to get some things set up tomorrow for early next week, that will make me feel a little bit better. Yeah.
Now, are you in your jams?
I am absolutely in my jams.
Now, tell the listeners and me, describe your jams.
Okay. My jams consist of a very comfortable, stretchy tank top from Target. The color is a wonderful orangey melon because it's bright, and I thought that would help my mood. And then I have on just like shorts, comfy shorts. And I have this amazing robe that my mom gave me for Christmas a couple of years ago. And it's like that super plush fabric. I don't even know. And it's just like the softest, plushiest, squishiest fabric. And it's a beautiful, I know. And it's a beautiful purple color. So I'm feeling, very snug. I joke that I want everything I wear to feel like pajamas. That's sort of my sense of style these days.
Yeah.
So many leggings, many stretchy things.
You like coziness.
So I have to feel cozy all the time. I have a big plush blanket in my office at work that I keep on my chair. And sometimes people will walk into my office for meetings and I'm like wrapped up in this blanket all snuggly, and I don't apologize. Mm-mm.
No, that's you do you, Laura. So lately Jessica's been a little colder at night, and she needs to get actually some like probably long sleeve jams.
Yeah.
Do you recommend any?
Well, I can't wear like a lot of, this is maybe too much information, but I can't wear a lot of stuff when I'm sleeping. Like I just have to wear like a tank top and like little sleep shorts, because if I have too much clothing on, I get tangled and uncomfortable.
Sure.
So I'm not one to recommend the long sleeve or pant variety of jams. But what I can suggest and what I use is a thing called a comfort pack. And they come by many names, but it is basically a cloth sack filled with like barley and rice.
Oh, yeah.
And you put it in the microwave and it heats up and it holds heat for like a couple of hours. And I put it underneath the covers where my feet are at the end of the bed. And I am so toasty warm. It is like I can't live without it.
Now, where did you get that?
Well, it was a gift from a friend, but if you do some Googling, use a variety of words like microwave comfort pack or microwave heat pack or something like that, you might be able to find them maybe even on Amazon. I don't know, but it is really a wonderful thing. And you can also use it as like a heating pad. So if you have a part of your body that's in pain, you can put this little pack on. It's not plugged into anything, so you don't have to worry about falling asleep with like a heating pad on, which is very dangerous.
Right.
So yeah, it's really wonderful. And I'm very sensitive to cold, and I'm always cold. And so this has really kind of been a game changer for me. So
nice.
I highly
get
recommend.
one of those. Yeah, I'll get one of those for Jessica, I think.
Yeah.
Talk to me about so as the queen of coziness, as the queen of jams.
It's really true. I am.
What obviously we talked before about how your own, depression impacts your physical body.
Yeah.
Obviously that's a thing that we all experience, and something you experience in a sort of level that's always boggles my mind, and I just feel so, bad, when you talk about it sometimes, because I just feel like my heart goes out to you when you describe your aches and pains. But when I say that, that's all leading up to talk about the importance of like having a fallback of comfiness, or a fallback of like when shit hits the fan, when things don't go according to plan, in our days, like the importance of like having things that we know make us feel better, whether it's jams, whether it's whatever. Like, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it really is something I talk about regularly, like at work with my colleagues and my friends. That's where I spend most of my day. But just being able to be warm and comfortable is absolutely paramount to me, because my body is so sensitive. And my depression really does like sort of flare up, and my anxiety especially flares up when my body doesn't feel right. So I surround myself with things like, I always have hot tea around. I always try to have this like very plush blanket at work. I try to make sure that my space heater's on at work. If, I apologize profusely to my office mate and work wife, Jen, because I'm always like, okay, I know the thermostat is registering like 85, but you're okay, right? And she's like, yes, I'm fine. And she's like, dying in the corner because she's so hot. But they
85?
No, I exaggerate, but it is definitely gets pretty toasty in my office sometimes. But when I'm at home, I think, one of my favorite places to be really is our bed. And we actually, when we bought this house, our first house about 1.5 years ago, we bought our, a new bed, and we got one of those split king adjustable memory foam beds. So pretty much like we're 85 years old, and we need our adjustable beds. But it's been very therapeutic for me, because I'm able to sleep and to rest in a position that relieves a lot of pressure off my body. And I just am surrounded by pillows and soft blankets and a body pillow, which really is very helpful for me. And so that's kind of where I know I can go and my body will rest and feel comfortable and safe. And that then affects my mental health, for the better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have like those battery operated remote controlled candles. I have some of those in the bedroom and in the house, like in our living room, so that I can make the atmosphere feel very, very much like a sanctuary.
Yeah.
And my husband's into that too. So
that's helpful.
Yeah, we're very much into like comfort and peace because the world out there is not very peaceful.
Sometimes a little harsh. Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to surround ourselves with the softness, because sometimes the outside world is a little not so soft.
And a hot shower, honestly, like I really think that a hot shower can solve many of the world's problems.
Yeah.
So I always feel better after a hot shower.
We're in a new house and
Yay!
And we haven't had a shower situation up until basically it was finally put in a couple of days ago. We had our next door neighbor put it together.
Oh, nice.
And it was fantastic. He he welded a ring to go above, because we have this old antique tub. So he had to weld a ring and put it into the ceiling, and the ceiling was all pitched. So it took a while, but it works now. But since the last couple of months, I've been taking baths, which is not something I usually do, but I've been enjoying them.
Oh, baths are amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
So, yeah.
Yep.
Outside of the sort of your today, your sort of new physical discoveries, how has because it's been almost a year since basically when this comes out in January, it'll be a year since the listeners have heard you. So any sort of fun life updates, any new, I know last time we talked about like movies, like any like new things in your life that have brought you joy, what have you?
I think one of the things that's been really helpful is, so when we last spoke almost a year ago, I had been at a new job at that point for about a year. And it had been a very difficult transition from my previous job. And I was kind of struggling to feel like it was a good fit, or that, I was able to do the job, and was sort of kind of missing the relationships that I had had at my previous job that I had been at for like 12 years. And since we last spoke, now I will have been at this new, I put that in air quotes, new job for almost 2 years. And I have developed relationships with people that I kind of can't imagine not having. Like, I feel really, really glad and blessed that I know these people that I work with. I work in higher ed. I work at a university here in Pittsburgh. And my current job, I do a lot of like academic advising. And I've been able to really develop some amazing friendships with other advisor type staff members in the college where I work at this university. And I just feel like how did I get so lucky to have this kind of camaraderie and these colleagues who are friends? And that's been really nice, because we do work at a very fast-paced, competitive school, and there can be some pretty stressful days, and knowing that I have that support system at work is really wonderful. And I didn't know if I was going to have that, because my transition to this job was kind of rocky, was really challenging for me. So that's been really nice. I've been spending actual time with them, like outside of work, and we have like a text message thread. It's kind of like we call it the advisor check-in. Mm-hmm. And so we just will occasionally, someone will send a text message and be like, okay, make sure you like go outside for 5 minutes and get fresh air. Or it's registration week. Make sure, you're taking like a breather and stay hydrated. And it's just this wonderful sort of community that I just feel really glad to be a part of.
Wow.
So that's been,
so good to hear.
It's been really
hard.
Wonderful.
It's hard to, it's definitely hard. Like that. Changing jobs is a huge change, and
really scary.
Honestly, and based on my experience, like I've met obviously some like great people in previous jobs, but I've never had an experience where I'm having now, which is, comprised of people who I do very much value and cherish and do support me. And in previous jobs, I had, peers like, on my level, but like not even like people above me. It was always like really just not conducive to empathy or compassion and stuff. And so like I know that feeling, and I'm so happy you have that.
Thank you. Yeah. And just even the people that I work with in my department, like, I never, in my previous job, I didn't have like other staff members. It was basically just me and then like a bunch of faculty. And then since I came to this job that I'm at now, I have an entire like team of people that I work with who we're all staff. And I just love them so much. I just can't believe like how well we all gel and support each other. And it just feels like we are not just a well-oiled machine, but we're like a really functional family. It sounds kind of weird, but and my office
sound
mate,
weird. It makes sense to me.
My office mate Jen, like I like just freaking adore her. I just, the two of us are just like two little peas in a pod, and it just makes work not really feel like work some days,
Oh yeah.
So,
That's the best.
It is. It's wonderful.
And how's your depression?
So I went through a pretty dark spell over the summer. I had some personal stuff happen. And I will not go into the details. But I did have some personal stuff happen over the summer. It was very, very challenging, and did have, a moment where I was feeling particularly, like I didn't want to be here, but I managed to get through that. And I think now, with the weather changing, it's difficult. I can sort of feel that seasonal affective disorder part of my depression kicking in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And just with my own physical, body ailments and problems, whatever, my depression definitely feels a little more front and center right now. But I do know from experience that it's temporary. So I'm trying to remind myself that like this will pass, but that it's okay to have depression and to feel its symptoms, and make sure that you're surrounding yourself with a good care team of like, doctors or therapists or, family and all of that. And I was, during the very difficult portion of the summer and into early fall, I was regularly seeing a therapist like every week, which was really helpful.
That's good.
Yeah. So the depression is there. It's definitely there. The anxiety's been pretty high lately. So I'm just trying to maintain and, do the things that I know are helpful. So like making sure that I'm comfortable and I feel cozy and safe, and, try to be with friends when I feel like I can. And those little things help, it doesn't make it go away, but it definitely can ease it, even if it's just temporary.
Yeah. I'm sorry you went through that over the summer.
Thanks. Yeah, it was pretty rough.
Did you?
I survived it.
Were you talking to other people about it other than your therapist?
Yeah. So I had some people at work, knew what was going on, and, my family was very, very supportive. So, but yeah, it was just like, it's like life, these things, I really believe that people are always someone around you is going through something, and we just don't always talk about it. But I really believe that life, while simultaneously, beautiful, is also very, very challenging, and people are suffering and people are going through really significant challenges. And I just happened to have a very significant challenge over the summer. But I know I wasn't alone. I shared with some people what was going on, and they started sharing stories with me. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, wow, I'm definitely not alone. So
that's good that you found that empathy.
Yeah. Community and empathy. It's so important.
Well, it's just like, it kind of breaks my heart to know that you were suffering, and, me not being fully aware of it. And it's just a reminder to all of us that we need to, obviously we live in different states, but like it's a reminder to me that we need to be open with our hearts to people in our lives. And when we are struggling, we need to talk about it because,
Yeah.
Next moment, like someone we know could not be there anymore.
Yeah, I think that's partly kind of what's going on too, is that, we just experienced the Tree of Life synagogue shooting recently.
Yeah.
And we had I guess I'll just say I work at Carnegie Mellon University, which is in Squirrel Hill, which is the neighborhood where the Tree of Life synagogue is. And so we were very closely impacted by what happened. We have a lot of students at Carnegie Mellon who are Jewish or who have, family who are congregants at Tree of Life. We actually lost someone who was a very close friend of Carnegie Mellon. Her husband taught in the college where I work, and she was a big supporter. And she's one of the people who lost her life that day.
Oh,
And
wow.
she had just been on campus the day before celebrating our new university president's inauguration. And so it's just hit very close to home. And I think it being so close in physical proximity, of course, was very difficult. It's like just less than a mile from our campus.
Yeah.
And then
terrible.
just knowing students who were affected and we lost people. It just kind of makes me look at life. I'd already started to look at life differently because of all the other, mass shootings that had been happening, but it was just so close to home. And our city is so resilient and full of so many incredibly loving, good people. And we've been seeing that support. And I think people are starting to be more and more open about not only like their own challenges and struggles in life, but just telling people they love them and wanting to listen to people and wanting to connect with people because of what happened. And so that's kind of a lot to process if it's not something that you do regularly. So there's definitely a different energy in my life now and in the lives of the people that I work with and just in the Pittsburgh community because we're trying to move forward from this because it was so horrific. So,
yeah, that's truly, I mean, these are the moments in life where you're like, there's something evil amidst us, I know. It's inhumane. It's like this inhumane quality that I have trouble wrapping my head around. And, it feels very helpless at times when you experience something like that. I obviously have never experienced it that close, and I'm sorry that you had to be so close to that. But I guess, policy change outside of that stuff, like what we can do, I guess, is doing what you're talking about, talking about it and sharing and, and through that pain and through that vulnerability can come the healing that we need and maybe hopefully more open conversations about the true emotional and mental impact that these violent acts have upon humanity.
Yeah. And I just, it's particularly difficult when you have students who maybe are living with PTSD or, we had a student who, she is from Las Vegas. And so she remembers very clearly the Las Vegas shooting.
Oh,
and
man.
She was really struggling with, this event because it was just it was like twice, for her. And I just think I just have this kind of renewed energy to just love people and try to remind people and myself of how much more alike we are than different and how important it is really to just talk. It's so important to just talk to people and to listen, with a really as open a heart as you can. And I think that's what's going to actually help heal us.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Well, let's
I'm trying to keep these to like 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Let's go out on try to go out on like a joyful note.
Let's do it.
Any new piece of music, TV show, movie that you and Ross have enjoyed?
Well, I think we probably talked about this in the last episode that my husband and I like to say at least that I am a professional television watcher.
Yeah.
We very much love to binge watch and to watch television and movies. So I've been really enjoying the Great British Baking Show.
Oh my gosh. It is.
Which
that's sheer joy.
It will save the world. I'm convinced. I'm not as into the new, two new sort of overseas people. You got to give it a chance because it's real good.
They're good, but they pale in comparison to the joy of like the word punnery and the chemistry of the last two ladies.
It's true. It's different. But so another new season just came out and everybody's talking about it. And so I started watching it. I think I'm on episode 4, but it has just brought me so much joy. And I don't even I'm not a baker or a cook. I don't even like being in the kitchen. I would rather just have food appear and then I eat it and be done with it because
that's like
I
Jessica.
Just have other things I want to do. Yeah. I just don't take real joy. I'm not a foodie, but there is something about this show that just makes me feel so good. So I've been watching that. And then, Ross and I really love, some of the network TV shows like sitcoms such as The Good Place. We love that show.
The Good Place is amazing.
The Good Place and Superstore. We like to laugh.
Sure. Yeah.
And I find that very helpful, particularly lately after what's happened and just sort of in my own mental health space. But I also have a very strong interest in movies and TV shows that focus on spy stuff. So, and kind of like government conspiracies and government things. So I've been watching Designated Survivor with Kiefer Sutherland, which I think is fabulous. And I'm also sort of still kind of in and out of watching Homeland and The Americans. So
okay, yeah, you are into that stuff.
Oh my gosh. And I'm reading a really good book right now called Anonymous Sources. Which is fiction, but I think it might actually be creative nonfiction.
Oh, scandalous.
So, yes, no, it's really, really good. And it's, deals with things that I love, including higher education, England, and spies. So it's that's
like the trifecta of what you love.
It is. So yeah, I went to the library recently and I got 5 books out. And I'm almost done with this first one, Anonymous Sources. It's by Mary Louise Kelly. I highly recommend it.
Cool.
And so I might read that a little tonight while I'm just kind of laying in bed, resting my kidneys, my ovary, and my lung, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I hope you rest well and you find some answers soon. And if you feel up for it, just DM me or something, let me know how you're doing.
I totally will, for sure. Thank you.
Well, thanks for doing this little catch up. This is the
you're welcome.
1 year celebration of Yumi Empathy. And chatting with previous guests about life and things.
Oh, you're the best. Thank you, friend.
Of course. Well, thank you. Tell Ross I say hello, and
I will.
Just go get cozy and comfortable, and
that's the plan.
Hopefully you heal, and everything's going to be okay.
It's going to be fine.
It's going to be fine.
I have amazing people, and Pittsburgh is one of the best cities in the world for medicine, so I'm good.
There you go. You're good.
We'll be great.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, friend.
All right.
We'll talk soon.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Love.